Hi there guys, welcome to the DrivingMaul review for the Australian Conference in Super Rugby 2016. Let's start at the top with the Brumbies. This was supposed to be their year. A lot of their players coming off the back of a successful Rugby World Cup, and some of their experienced players were leaving at the end of the season, such as Pocock, Stephen Moore, etc. So this was supposed to be it, and they had a really good start, big win over the Hurricanes, beating the Tars, but off-field issues really derailed their season. There's an ongoing federal investigation into how they sold their pitch and where the money went, or their training pitch at the ground, where the money went from that. Their CEO got fired, took the Brumbies to court, got himself reinstated, decided to charge some of the players with conduct issues, and it was all became a bit of a mess. Once that all got sorted out and the CEO left and he got paid off and things, the Brumbies went into their shells and played a very limited game plan, really. They did stumble over the line at the end, being the top Australian team, and they did nearly beat the Highlanders, but that would have been a bit of a travesty. The weather there was a real leveller in that quarter-final, but the Highlanders were the better side and deserved the win, even if there were a few controversial refereeing calls towards the end. What does next season hold? With Larkham's role under question, will he go off and become the attack coach of the Wallabies, or will he stick around as the head coach of the Brumbies next season? We don't know. So it's a bit up in the air. What will happen in the backroom staff around the CEO, what will happen around this federal investigation, how they're going to replace the experienced players, all of this kind of stuff does not lead to a bit of uncertainty for Brumbies next year. So hopefully they can sort some of that stuff out. Who will be the coach if Larkham does go off to the Wallabies, which I think he will do as the attack coach. I guess Matt O'Connor is an option, but we'll have to see who else puts their hand up there. The next team, the Waratahs, they only got 2 wins over playoff opponents this season against the Stormers and the Chiefs. Some people might point to the fact they lost their last 2 games, including the Blues, who are the bottom New Zealand side. But in the end, I think it was really losing those 4 of their first 6 games that really made this whole season an uphill struggle. With Checker moving off to the Wallabies, it was a new coaching setup. Yes, it was people stepping up roles, so they know the Waratahs. It wasn't like new coaches being brought in. But new coaching staff do have new ways of doing things, and it does take a while for these things to settle down. Having had a full season under their belts now and heading into next season, I think we'll see a better Tars next season. But it's it was a disappointing season for the Tars, but perhaps it should have been expected with the new coaching. Heading down to the Rebels, a lot of people are saying it's a season of consolidation. They got 7 wins last year. They got 7 wins this year. Again, sort of mid-table. And at one point did look like threatening the top of the Australian table, sort of mid-season, but fell away. But if you dig a little deeper, this season was really a bit of a step backwards. Last year, it was built on the fact they had the best defensive year ever, only conceding 354 points. Whereas this season, they conceded 486 with 1 less game. So that's another 130 points they gave up with 1 less game. And when people say the defence is all about enthusiasm and getting off the floor, it does make you wonder about the state of the squad. They started decently, and I say they fell away, but in the end, and fell away with only 2 wins in their last 7 games. In the end, they didn't beat any of the playoff teams. Their top scalp was the Tars away in round 6. Last season, if you think they beat the Crusaders away and the Brumbies away, that's a real drop-off in performances against top sides. Alongside some rumours of the coaching staff losing the dressing room, is really kind of worrying. Last season, I wrote a piece called the breakout season for the Melbourne Rebels. I really thought they were going to push on this season, but it doesn't seem to have happened. Hopefully they can get things back on track and have a better season next season. On to the Reds. another place where we have CEO and off-field issues. So Graham got reappointed, and then after a few games got sacked. They did improve after that, and obviously with the change of CEO, they wanted to sort that out first before replacing the coach. So we had to add interim coaches all season. They did only manage 3 wins and a draw, even though they did improve. But looking forward, they do have that new CEO in place. Nick Stiles has been appointed as the coach, so there is some continuity there after being sort of co-ad interim head coach this season. And whilst I think he is the right choice and they end up in the right place, I'm not sure that the process of getting him there was the right option, or they went about the right. Flying in people from all over the world, talking about Blackadder, Lancaster, etc. in this worldwide search. Did they really need that? They had 2 guys there as co-head coaches in Nick Stiles and Matt O'Connor, who are both capable of stepping up. And they perhaps would have been better saying, look, yep, it's between these 2, and we're just going to choose one, rather than doing this so-called this worldwide search and doing that. If we look at the recruitment, they've got some good players coming in next season. The extra stability in backroom staff, hopefully everything will be looking better for the Reds next season. And they'll be pushing towards the top rather than scrabbling around down at the bottom. Then we move on to the final team, the Force. So 2 wins, which were over the both over the Reds. One over the Reds when he were under Graham, and the Sunwolves. So it's a really poor return for the Force this season. They also lost their coach during the international break when the RU took over the franchise. It's still unclear, well, we still don't know who is going to be the coach next season. Matt O'Connor is also looking around for a role now since he didn't get the Reds, and it's the obvious candidate, I would think, to come in here. What really needs to happen, though, is they need to sit down, figure out what they're going to do with the Force over the next 5 years, or however many years, and put in a proper game plan around it. I'm not talking about on the pitch, but off the pitch, because the Force really have been going nowhere for several years now, and you can't really see them going anywhere else. They don't look like a team that's going to do a Lions and grow, or even a Rebels and become a mid-table team anytime in the near future. Those sort of things, you could see the building blocks in place a year or so before it actually happened in those franchises. You don't see any of those there for the Force. So next season I expect to be a pretty poor season as well. And if they get the right sort of structures in place, you can then see things improving after that. But that's a big if, and we've been saying that for quite a while, I think, now. So that's my roundup of the Australian Conference. A couple of key themes running across all of that is the turnover of CEOs. I think something like 4 out of 5, or well, maybe not the Force hasn't turned over, but they've been taken over by the RU. CEOs have changed within the last 12 months. That kind of off-field disruption does play through the whole organisation as cultures are driven from the top. So what we really need to see from Australia is for these guys, the next CEOs, to bed in and to work together, really. We're seeing the NRL has a good term which says they compete on the pitch and collaborate off the pitch. And that's what we need to see from the Super Rugby side, is more collaboration off the pitch around comms and how they initiatives for getting more fans in and driving interest. So there we go. That's my review. How do you think the Australian sides go? Please do feel free to leave comments below or have a chat with me on somewhere like Twitter. Thanks, guys.